Hello, folks. Welcome. There's been a lot of talk online about the whole thing with the motor trend developments.
Fans have been watching Ian Roussel work his magic on full custom garage for years, but the real story was never shown on TV. They gave up because they were too tired from working 13-hour days in 115-degree desert heat and writing plots that turned real creative moments into fake TV moments. Ian was slowly giving up on himself in the process of making TV shows. He finally told the truth about what was going on, which showed a bad side of reality shows that no one talks about. He was born in Sunland, California, on November 19, 1970. The hospital records said he was born at 11:19 a.m., but on his first driver's license, which he got in 1987, it said he was born in 1971, which seems odd. Because of the Sylmar earthquake in 1971, which shut down government offices for weeks, there was a mess with the paperwork that led to the mistake. His family never forgot the real date, though. They made him a birthday cake every year that looked like a license plate that said 11-1970. People in the area remembered the day because of a rare hailstorm that covered Foothill Boulevard in ice. His mom and baby Ian had to be driven home in an elevated F-100 from a neighbor. Fans disagreed about how old he really is because of that strange beginning, but Ian doesn't mind. He jokes a lot. Every year I'm either 54 or 55. It helps me stay young. Jerry Roussel was his dad. He worked during the day at Lockheed Skunk Works, and every night turned their garage into a workshop. He brought home extra airplane metal, which Ian, who was only 8 years old at the time, used to make panels for his homemade go-karts. They worked together in that garage for more than 4,200 hours between 1978 and 1985. Ian found that number by reading his dad's old dirty project logs. He knew how to read cam lift and gap spark plugs by the time he was 10 years old. There were tables, but Jerry had one rule: build first, then drive. The first big job they had was fixing up a 1955 Chevy Nomad that they got for $75. They put down bomber sheet metal on the floor over the course of 32 nights. As a memory of where it all began, that wagon is still in Ian's shop in Mojave. Ian finished high school at West Valley in 1989. He did not wear a cap and gown like everyone else. Instead, he parked his unfinished 1929 Ford Model A pickup right in front of the gym. It was made of raw metal and had bright orange wheels. The teacher told him not to bring it. It didn't bother him. His GPA was 2.7, but with a score of 98 out of 100 in the school's metal fab test, it was the best score ever. He lost just 2 points because he drew his report by hand instead of typing it. In the 1990 Young Guns issue of Rod and Custom magazine, that car was shown. It was put together from 11 source cars and $600 worth of parts. 2 weeks later, he turned down a grant to join the draft. His reason? College can't join things together. Ian was an only child, so he didn't have anyone to share tools with or someone to blame when something went wrong. He had worked in the shop for over 300 hours by the time he was 18. It's worth more than a year and a half to have a full-time job. Donna, his mom, kept everything in order with picture binders. Those files were used as a storyboard for the first season of Full Custom Garage when it was made later. Family stories say that Jerry wanted a second child at one point, but changed his mind when Ian, then 5 years old, took apart the family washer to figure out how to use the spin cycle. He didn't get toys for Christmas. Instead, he got tools. He got a stick welder when he was 12. At age 15, an old English wheel. Because of those early investments, he was the only one who knew how to use his father's practical skills. He never thought about cars like other kids did. Ian saw cars as works of art, even before he could drive. He carved a 4-foot-tall copy of a '32 Ford grill out of foam and fiberglass when he was 9 years old just to study the shape. He said he didn't care if the car could move in a podcast in 2015. A lot of the time, he forgot to add driving wheels to his models. He shocked his art teacher in 7th grade when he turned in a rolling clay figure instead of a painting. It only had a hatch on top, no doors. That type won awards in the county. He finally got a license because his dad said he would tow away any job Ian couldn't move himself. Ian still says that he's just a guy who makes forms and then adds wheels. Ian didn't even think about college after high school. He went right into the car scene in Southern California. Ian was learning from greats like Boyd Coddington while his friends chose their majors, Jesse James and Chip Foose. During the day, he worked at their shops. At night, he built his own cars. His work was already being shown at big shows like SEMA and the Grand National Roadster Show by the time he was 22. Through that kind of work, he learned skills that schools couldn't teach him. It also helped him meet people who would later shape his career. Ian opened his own store when he was only 22 years old. People didn't think he would last because most guys in his line of work were in their 30s or 40s. Even so, Ian had saved enough from small jobs and show wins to rent a small room. His family also helped him get the tools he needed. Because of this early start, Ian had years of experience by the time big collectors began to notice him in the late 1990s. He didn't use billboards or paper spreads to get the word out. He just made a simple promise. "I can build anything." The word spread quickly. Ian agreed to do strange things when other shops said no. He made special aluminum windshields, welded Cadillac parts to Ford frames, and bumpers that looked like they were from another planet. People from all over the state came to get something that no one else would make. His shop quickly became a show. A lot of people parked outside to watch the builds go together. His pleased clients promoted him without him having to do anything. He didn't fix up antique cars to look like they came straight from the factory like most builders did. He cut off the tops, lowered the frames, and welded together pieces that didn't go together to make something new. His cars were weird. Some people liked them. Some people called them punk rock hot rods. Some people said he was ruining perfectly good cars. Ian didn't care about being liked, though. He was looking to make something new. And it was his bravery that finally caught the attention of TV producers and collectors all over the world. It was hard the first few years. He just made enough money to stay alive. He used to live in the back of the shop, where he ate ramen and slept on a couch next to his tools. After a car show in Las Vegas in the mid-1990s, everything changed. Ian brought a crazy rat rod that he almost didn't make because he wasn't able to afford it. A documentary group was interested in that one car. People who wanted to buy started calling after it aired, and orders started to pile up. His shop might have gone away like so many others if that moment hadn't happened. It did happen, though, and everything changed because of it. Ian Roussel made a rat rod for a Las Vegas car show in 2005. He didn't know what the crowd would do. Some groups, like the Road Zombies and the Burbank Choppers, didn't always let people with weird builds join. The lot didn't laugh at Ian's car, though. It became the most talked about car there. His whole life changed in that one moment. He went from being a metal worker with a torch and an idea to being one of the most famous names in custom cars. In a film called Back from the Dead, the whole story was told. The next thing you know, everyone is asking, who built that car? Something even bigger took place right after the Vegas show. Ian got off the Caddis report. It's a list of the 10 best unique car builders in the country. It's not easy to get on that list. Quality, creativity, and influence are what it's built on. There was Ian, right there with them, building. Most of the people on it had been building for decades. Not many people in the business knew his name just a few years ago. Right now, his risky decisions and rough, raw style were the best. It wasn't just a win. It showed that you could break the rules and still get respect. His builds weren't going to stay in the US for long. From Long Beach, cars were being packed up and sent to Japan, Germany, and the Netherlands, among other places. It was more than just leaving the country. People from all over the world bought his work after seeing it on TV or in movies and wanted to own a piece. Soul builders hadn't hit that level very often. Not many people did it without a big name behind them. It showed that no matter where they lived, people were interested in Ian's work. After that, the requests got crazy. Ian always said, "If you can dream it, I can build it." And people paid attention to that. Customers wanted cars that were different in more ways than one. They were interested in rolling tools that had stories. Some people asked for secret parts, like gadgets or plot twists based on movies. Some people came with such strange ideas that other makers had already turned them away. But Ian never jumped. He found a way to make everything real. People didn't miss the chance to share their weirdest ideas in his garage. They were built. It wasn't long before big stars showed up. People who make music, movies, and TV shows. Some people wanted cars that were ready to go on the road. Some people needed props or showpieces. It's funny that most of them didn't want their names to be known. That made his work seem a little more mysterious. But people in the business started talking behind closed doors. Ian was no longer just making hot cars. High-level people wanted what he was making, but they could only get it from him. It all began in 2003, which is strange. That's when Ian sent a producer a DVD through the mail. It was simple, just clips of his builds made for a trade show stand. But that DVD ended up with people who make TV shows. They saw something very interesting. He had no plans to be on TV. He didn't want to do it. But what the video showed was real. There were no tricks or fake performances, just skill, fire, and raw metal. For some reason, the show didn't run until 2014. It came out on MAV-TV on March 28th. Most shows either don't get made at all or get made very quickly. It took eons of years. There were test runs, changes to the production, and a lot of waiting. But when it did go off, it was different. No added stress or fake due dates, it just builds. Each show was about the work, the tools, and the way it was done. The audience felt it. They kept looking because they could tell the difference. Ian did something that no one saw coming in the first season. He took everything he had and made a chopper bike. No, not a car. A real motorbike with 3 wheels. His personal dream, something he had hoped to do since he was a child. It was risky to do it on TV, from bare metal to show-ready. He used a Volkswagen engine, a coffin tank, forks that were too long, and tires that were too big. People were shocked when it was shown for the first time at Chopperfest. Ian wasn't stuck in one lane, as that episode showed. He was able to build anything. The show had more than 90 episodes over the next 10 years. Each season brought more stress, with more builds, less time, and more people looking. Ian didn't stop, though. People went to the shop every year from 2014 to 2024. A lot of people flew in from different places. People sent him their cars from far away just to have him work on them. The show was no longer just material. It showed that skill was still important. People really liked the episode where Ian turned Tom's 1948 Packard into a lead sled. Venus would have been the choice of most people. Ian didn't. He chose something tougher. Packard's roof was messed up. It took days of grinding and sweating while cutting, welding, and reworking. But it turned out great. It wasn't just the car, either. It was about being friends. That hit home with fans. They saw it many times. That build put Tom in the spotlight in a way he didn't expect, and it became one of the most talked about scenes of the whole show. Then the electric dune buggy came along. Ian dug through some junk and found a forklift motor. He then used it to make a green, clean off-roader. With its bright red paint and lightning bolts, it looked crazy, but it was all tech on the inside. Make-to-order adapters and mounts, as well as real building. He worked quickly and finished it in time for a birthday surprise. That was around 2017, a time when no one else was thinking about fully electric builds. Ian did it before it was cool, and the news outlets paid attention. After that, Ian quickly turned an old bus into a mobile workshop. It wasn't just for looks. He made the frame stronger, added electrical systems that work, and put in gear for full production on the road. Every part, like the fold-out benches and secret storage, was made by hand. People who were interested could see the whole process, from the rusty shell to a running machine shop. People were shocked when he drove it into a big car event. It was not only cool, it was brilliant. By 2022, the builds were moving out of the area. A lot of people saw Ian's work being packed up and sent to Japan, Australia, and many places in Europe. These were not normal products, one-of-a-kind cars that were made by hand. To ship them, they needed special crates, legal papers, and sometimes letters written by hand for the buyers. Videos of people opening the boxes made it look like they were finding wealth, which in a way they were. Ian Roussel and his wife Jamie stayed in the Mojave Desert for 6 years. It is one of the harshest places on Earth. In the summer, it often got to 115 degrees and sometimes even 130. They lived close to Furnace Creek, where the hottest air in the world was recorded in 1913 at 134 degrees. There was sun, wind, and a dry heat every day that made the body and mind tired. There was no way out of the dust. It got so dry that the air would sometimes only be 7% wet. There were no people nearby, no lighting, and no break in the silence. It was the kind of life that could break up a bond or make it stronger. It was in this tough place that Ian met Jamie. They got along quickly and deeply. Jamie quit her job as a hospice nurse in Las Vegas. She went to the desert with Ian and her teenage son. What they chose to build was the only thing that could be seen or heard outside. Jamie turned into more than just a partner. Ian was making things for people, so she jumped in and became an important part of the business. While Ian worked in the shop, she did the work behind the scenes, like editing movies, answering customer questions, and keeping things in order. It wasn't just a marriage. They worked together because they were creative and tough. In 2019, Ian did something amazing to surprise Jamie. As a wedding present, he made her a 1962 VW Dune buggy from scratch. It was more than just a pretty car. The finish was made of silver flake, the fiberglass was hand-shaped, and every part was carefully made. The whole build was shown on an episode of Full Custom Garage. That was one of those rare TV moments that felt real. That stroller wasn't just a gift. It became a sign of what they built together in business and in love. But things weren't easy out there. It was hard for them to be alone. They didn't expect the heat, wind, and quiet to make them feel the way they did. For Jamie, being on a show with more and more fans was strange because she had always been shy in front of cameras. She had to keep going even though she was scared and tired. They had to move their house and business more than once to stay out of the way of the desert. Then there was a big sickness. Being locked up and cut off from the rest of the world added to the stress. These groups didn't break apart, though. Their shared goals kept everything together. One of the most important things they did was decide not to have kids together. They were able to focus on their work, which was making cars and growing their business. But it had its own weight to it. People who didn't understand put pressure on them. When there are no kids around, the desert might feel even more empty. Jamie talked about parts of her life that she felt weren't finished sometimes. They knew they had put everything they had into the world they made together, but they stuck to their choice. Since their TV show and YouTube site both got bigger, things began to change. Full Custom Garage lost some of its early magic and became something else over time. The show seemed like a real story at first, but as time went on, each episode became more and more like the last. Every story had a beginning, a middle, and an exciting end. A plan was given to Ian, and he had to follow it. Things that were once fun and casual began to feel more like work. Ian said that he started to dislike the timers and countdowns, what fans thought was a huge hit. It felt like a trick at first. Ian built less and less as the cameras kept rolling. He said the same lines over and over for hours under bright lights. His hands felt like they were being used for acting at times. By 2020, he didn't use tools or make things for more than half of his time on set. Getting the right shot and building up tension were important. He felt like an artist who had lost touch with what he was doing. There was a much rougher world behind those polished 42-minute shows. There were 60-hour weeks with a lot of stress that led to what looked like quick and clean changes. It only took a few days to build something that should have taken months. People on the team sometimes filmed for 13 hours straight, welded near flammable parts, skipped important steps, and rushed through sensitive work. These things happened just to get the job done. Ian later said that they did cut corners sometimes, not because they wanted to, but because the show needed them to. It stopped being real even when we met with clients. When they used to be real brainstorming meetings, they turned into practice runs. Producers gave Ian and the car owners things to say, and they were told to look shocked or sad. It took hours to make a short movie. It was no longer fun to talk about crazy ideas with other gearheads. Instead, fake stress and forced cheers were used. It was no longer about the cars. It was to keep the show interesting enough for the people in charge of the network. The worst parts were when they had to film in the desert when it was very hot. Ian passed out from being too hot one day while shooting in the blazing sun. It was now more than 110 degrees outside. He was near machines that were going at full speed, and there wasn't much water on them. The ambulance had to be called. They all knew it was too risky, but they kept going for the sake of lighting and photography. Ian kept going even though there was a real risk. The show had to go on. Full Custom Garage has been a choice among people who like custom cars for a long time. But near the end of 2023, Ian finally spoke up about the silence. He wrote a short message online that really hurt. "I gave up. Not a story. There is no network pulling the plug. He made the choice." Right then and there, all the rumors about low numbers and secret cancellations went away. Fans were shocked. What would make someone leave their hit show? Ian himself gave the answer. He was worn out, bored with the rules. Because of all the repeats, the show seems more like a job than a hobby. He didn't quit like other people in the business, though. Ian told MAV TV a lot of time ahead of time that he was leaving. He didn't just fly away or get angry. He told them who he was, kept his promises, and helped the crew finish the trip on the right foot. He did a great job, and even people who didn't like the show admired it. It wasn't about power or something going wrong. It was to keep his imagination alive before the formula took it all away. He was sick of making shows that were basically the same thing over and over again because he felt like he had to meet TV standards that didn't match how he worked. It all added up over years of working in hot workshops and completing build after build while being told by directors to stay inside a box. The burnout took over at some point. Ian wasn't mad. He was worn out. He said that the plot was getting in the way of being creative. He finally lost it at that point. He said, "Take this job and shove it." No longer do I work here. There wasn't a meltdown or a PR stunt. The builder just chose freedom over being burned out. Fans didn't have to wait, though. Season 9 aired as expected. 6 last shows will air in January 2024 to mark the end. From January 3rd with Is That a Cadillac to January 31st with Surf and Safari and Keep on Truckin', it was going strong. With a clean finish, the show that had been on since 2014 and had over 80 custom creations was sent off in style. Real-life shows often end or get cut. Ian wanted this one to end the way it did. Ian had already begun a new project before the last season aired. He started his YouTube account, Full Custom Ian, in January 2023. It wasn't just a side job, it was a whole new way to get ahead. There are no fixed run times or outside producers. The shows ranged in length from 18 minutes to more than 90 minutes. Fans liked how honest it was. There were 100,000 members in just 4 months. Desert Ranch Build Finale got 2.4 million views by the end of the year. That was just the start. Someone else was also rising behind the camera. Jamie. She had been there from the beginning, but in 2023, she really stepped up. She worked with them as a producer, editor, and artistic partner. Their work went global after she edited it. In just 1 week, 500,000 people watched a show about their dogs. With their old way of making things, that speed was unheard of. It was more than 3 times as many full shows as they used to make in a year by the end of 2023. In the end, Jamie became a full co-owner of the brand. He led a growing team and decided on everything from plots to sponsor deals. Then, the sad part came up. The well-known Desert Ranch store closed in September 2024. For more than 10 years, that 10,600-square-foot building had been their main office. That's where more than 180 builds came from. In just 2 days, the goodbye film got 750,000 views. Fans were very sad. It sold for $280,000 for the last build, the last chop, breaking every record they had before. But the end wasn't a loss. It led to more than 2,000 emails in a week with offers for new shops and jobs all over the country. It got a lot better after that. They moved to a brand new store at the Mojave Air and Spaceport in October 2024. They have almost 4,800 square feet of room, good airflow, professional tools, and clean workspaces that help them build faster and better. Their first job there was making Rocket Rod, a crazy future ride. It only took 5.5 weeks to finish. It takes almost half as long as it used to. It was also easier to film at the new site, which had great video quality and lots of room for guests, events, and working together. That YouTube run had one build that stood out. The 1956 International COE truck was known as Little Jewel. Because it was so rare, only a few thousand were ever made. Ian put the whole build online, showing every choice and problem. It's just the work that was done, with no cuts or outlines. Fans didn't just see it as a truck when it finally moved on its own in the spring of 2025. They saw it as a sign. This is how real car building looks. Messy, interesting, and close to home. Something even older than that came next. A Mercury 4-door Roadster from 1941. In July 2025, Ian picked it up. Damage to the structure, problems that were hard to see, and not many parts were accessible. He still thought of it as a love letter to American car design. Each one was made just for you. Every step was shown to the people there. Plus, he joked that it was going to be Jamie's car. It was a big step forward in their work. It wasn't just tools and metal. They had grown to love these builds like family. At the same time that Ian was doing well online, something big happened on TV. Motor Trend Studios stopped making anything in-house on November 18, 2024. Every show, gone. Dead animals on the road, and over a dozen other shows disappeared overnight. Suddenly, Ian's choice to quit TV didn't just seem brave, it also seemed smart. Ian was already building without any restrictions, while others rushed to find bases and change contracts.